Thanks for attending my session. I'm going to teach you a little bit about GIS today and kind of the importance of using it for our management and for our decision making that we do. So let me get this to work. This is my only fire slide in here, so I had to start off with one. I know we as fire practitioners, we really love to put fire pictures in our presentations, and so I did have to put one in just to do a little more introduction. So we're going to talk a little bit about fire culture, basically prescribed fire safety. We like fires that are well planned, that are properly executed, right, properly documented, and properly shared. And one of the ways that we do that is by utilizing GIS, the graphic information system. And so that it has been a really excellent tool for our conservation district to use to help us make better decisions, to have prescribed fire safer, to execute things right, to be able to document things, and then also to be able to share our story. So I'm John Peters. I'm a restoration ecologist. I've been doing land management work for a really, really long time. And I'm fortunate enough to work for McHenry County Conservation District, and I'm a part of a fantastic team of ecologists, and our land manager, and our director, and our plant ecologist, and our GIS specialists, and all of the team that I get to work with every day. They're phenomenal people, and to be able to have the ability to share some of the knowledge with you today is me doing some of this, but a lot of it is our team effort of what we're able to do. So that's a little bit about me and what we're going to do. That's my last fire slide, so you won't see any more fire. Well, you'll see where we were. So I'm going to go a little bit about over the background of why we are doing GIS, where we were, where we are, and then kind of where we're going with GIS. So one of my first questions for you is, who is an agency or who is utilizing GIS now to map concerns? Almost everybody is. Fantastic. Does anybody not know or has never seen GIS before? It's pretty commonplace now. Actually, Bill Kleinman has been trying to get me to do this presentation for about the last 7 or 8 years now, and finally I'm able to get around to do it. But we helped him get started with his mapping at Nachusa grassland, and so he's been a proponent or a fan of mine to finally do a presentation. So I'm very happy to be able to do that. So we're going to learn some new terminology today too. So when you're using GIS and the graphic information system, there's a new language that you have to learn of what things mean. And so that's a very important thing to grasp, big concepts, but then also to understand some of that terminology, and I'll show you some of that. So this is the end goal, is to be able to share our information. And so this is, I'm going to actually go into this. It's basically called a story map, and it is a way that you can have your data displayed on a web page that you can share to report to wherever you need to report to. It's live, and so we're going to actually get in to see that today. And so it's updated as soon as somebody enters information in. So this is our end product. We'll get to this at the end of the presentation today, but this is what things look like. And so this is kind of a neat way to share a story, and sharing our story about GIS and how we utilize that tool to help us manage and make good management decisions. So this is the end product. We'll get there. So we're going to talk about I have some definitions, abbreviations, things like that. I'm going to talk about ArcGIS Online, which is basically a cloud service that this company Esri has for us to store all of our data on. And so instead of having it on your laptop or your desktop or your local server, actually hosted up in the cloud. And so we're going to go to the cloud today, so that'll be fun. So that's AGOL. GIS is Graphic Information Systems. If you don't know what GIS is, it's basically a whole bunch of different things that you can layer on top of each other that have attributes and fields and data associated with that. And then there's all sorts of interactions and relationships that you can build off of all of that data. And so we utilize the word GIS. I'm not really going to talk about ArcGIS Pro, but that's one of the latest softwares that they have for desktops and for laptops, and it integrates the cloud environment to what you're doing on your computer or all of your mobile stuff. Basically integrates all of that stuff. I'm not going to show that today since I don't have my computer up yet. They have a license to be able to have that software going. But that ArcGIS Pro is basically where we're going and what we're doing. We can view all of your data from multiple platforms in one spot, and it's pretty powerful. I am going to talk about, I said earlier about the language of GIS. There's terminology like geodatabases and feature classes, domains, relationships, right? Shape files. So there's some different terminology that I'm going to try to explain to you today, and hopefully you'll be able to kind of grasp some of that. So first off, this is where I work up here, McHenry County, very north part of the state. It's McHenry County Conservation District. We own and manage almost 26,000 acres of land. We have 36 sites open to the public. 17 of them are Eleanor Nature Preserves. And so you can see we're kind of divided all throughout McHenry County. We're kind of in the, what we call the urban interface. And so we have the very western part of the county is still pretty rural. The eastern and the southeastern part is subdivision after subdivision and Walmarts and Targets and Kohl's and all of that development stuff. So we have a lot of different variety in our county. Our conservation district, we probably have right around 112 full-time employees. So we have police department, administration, right, planning, development. We've got our parks and fleets guys, and I work in our land preservation and natural resources division. And so that we have a director and a manager. Brad Woodson is here on the council board, and so he's my boss. And then we have a team of 6 ecologists. We've got plant ecologists, wildlife ecologists, GIS specialists, volunteer coordinators. We have all sorts of staff that help us get our job done. So that's where we are. So I'm going to go over a kind of a timeline for our information management, right? So we're doing paper up until 20 years ago, right? Lots of paper to keep track of things. And we kind of moved into GIS. So I remember the first GIS version I got was 3.1, and I was so excited that I could possibly map something. And then we kind of designed our GIS program off of the early trainings and the really simple stuff that GIS did. And now, of course, we're mobile, right? We're going to the cloud from right here and be able to do some mobile apps. So it's very, very interesting, our transition that we've done. So this is what it looked like in early, up until 2002, where we basically have a photocopied topographic map, where we were always at the photocopier trying to figure out what we were going to do, right? And here's kept little hand field notes. Didn't really have computers yet, so we were still kind of working with paper and pens and things like that. And so as we got a little further along, so this is, some of you might have known Wayne Shettam, who's our resource manager way back when. This is our 1996 prescription burn plan, which is pretty, right, our list. And you probably can't read this all down at the bottom, but I'll try to read it. It says, note, this is to us ecologists, you may add burns which can be controlled with above if we have all those completed, right? And he said, however, if it's, unless it's a a phenomenally dry, low wind spring, 16 burns is enough, right? So we had a certain amount of staff, and so kind of neat to see some little hand notes there. But that was our prescription burn list back in 1996. Well, now it's 80 prescription burns we have planned, something like that. So we've gone from having 16 to a lot more. We used to have to keep all of our records were hand drawn, right? So this is one of our home prairies, a railroad prairie this is basically the burn history of that, starting in the early 80s, and how many times we had burned that, but this was our record for that site. And so not very easily searchable or very much information, so this is basically what we had before. And so this is still kind of where we were. We did purchase then the Esri software in 2003. We did start to create data and use shapefiles back then, which are kind of their own. A shapefile is basically a shape or a point or a line with some data associated with it, but it's not a part of anything. It's kind of like a standalone thing. So we did create those and started our database, and what we did then is migrated all of these to what they call a feature or a file geodatabase, where you have a database that takes all of the information and puts it into one package. And so everything then is relatable or linkable or queryable, where you can identify different things together. And so that technology with GIS, we really started just in 2011. A lot of these changes also occurred with different staffing that we had. So me as a restoration ecologist, I get to play with GIS and come back from the field and get on the computer and possibly map what I did for that day, but that was about it, right? And then as we get more staff, where we get a GIS specialist on that has more time to dedicate to that one craft, we're able to then migrate to our into geo databases and make things more usable for us. And so in 2014, the ArcGIS Online came in, and so we started collecting that way, where we had iPads and our phones and the ability to use the Collector Classic app to be able to document some of our data real time in the field, which was great that we didn't have to drive all the way back to our shop facility to the office to be able to map what we had just done. We were able to do it actually out in the field. We did kind of redesign our geo database from 2015 and 16, which made us more integrated agency-wide. And then, of course, now we're doing all sorts of different enhancements and standardizing procedures and coming to the 20th century, right, where we have to have procedures in place to be able to train someone else on how to do stuff. So it's, and then we're also utilizing GIS a lot more for summary stuff. So basically what it looks like, right? You've got your apps, you've got your desktop or your computer, you have a server, and then all of those things are integrated into the web GIS or to the cloud environment. And so all of these things are able to then talk to each other and communicate with each other. And so it has made our job of communicating and documenting what we do as management-wise a lot easier this way. So what we need, right? We need hardware, we need software, we need people. The big thing is time and money. So you have to have the money to invest in the software, you have to have the time to be able to implement it, to be able to design it, to be able to design your databases so they're functional for what you need to use. So those are kind of the things that we need. And here's kind of what we have. We do have some network servers. We have desktops. Most of us, since the COVID pandemic, I hate to bring that up, but that brought us a lot more mobile, right, to be able to work from home. So we've been transitioning to a lot more laptops rather than the desktop environment, and that has been great. We do use Windows Surface tablets. We did start out with Apple tablets and use those, and we've then gone to the Windows environment to kind of standardize our software that we have. We do have Android phones that we use and some different GIS receivers that'll get us down to meter accuracy or sub-meter accuracy for going and documenting airplane populations or that sort of stuff. So that really works well for us. So here's our software that we use. They are all Esri products. We use ARC catalogs, it's kind of like the library. ArcMap is the older version of the software that we use to map things out. Utilizing ArcGIS Pro that integrates all of the different things in together. And then ArcGIS is kind of like Google Earth, or ArcGIS Earth is more like Google Earth, where you can post something up and have people view things that way. So our mobile environment includes a lot of these different things, right? So we have ArcGIS Online, it's got the map viewer and dashboards and web applications that I'll show you today, the story maps, and then these are the apps that we utilize for collecting our data out in the field. There was a classic collector, and now the latest one is called Field Maps that we use, and I'll show you those. So we have one administrator that's our GIS specialist. We basically have 9 users in our division, so we have that many licenses, users, and some field work. So there's one person who really organizes and keeps track of all of our data, and all of our data goes in through that person, and then us as users are able to utilize that data. But you need to have someone that can manage your program. So that's very important to have a key person that is just focused on that. So how do we get started? Here we go. Basically, you create layers, and you create what they call fields, which is basically the data that's in what you want to draw. If it's a polygon or a line or a point, you need to create layers and fields of what data that you want to be able to collect. So you basically set up your system by doing that. Figure out what you want to find out, what you want to know. You can always add fields later or delete fields, but this is how we kind of go about doing that. And then we publish the data up into the cloud to ArcGIS Online, and utilizing those fields, you're able to then create a map. When you create that map, then you can go back to your phone or to your tablet, and you can actually collect data real time in the field, and then create maps or view your data to be able to see what you're doing. So this is kind of how we utilize our data. So we're talking about prescription burning. So these are some of the things that we publish to the cloud. So basically our burn plans. So we have a map with all of our layers of all of our prescription burn plans that we want to do. And they're kind of organized by year. And then, so we're able to then utilize those burn plans and publish those to the cloud. And we're able to utilize those burn plans to, or that layer to make maps, and also to send out neighbor notifications. All of that stuff is all of our burn plans. Our fire breaks are all mapped, so we know exactly how many miles of fire breaks we mow every year, and it's a lot. I think that this year was like 112 miles of fire that you're mowing, right? So we don't use trails or rivers, right? As our fire breaks, a lot of them are mow breaks, and so we have those all mapped, and I'll show you some of those. Our burn hazards. So you could have a trailhead kiosk or a internal power pole or an abandoned car or something like that. We can map where those hazards are. We also use our burn hazards to map for our burn planning purposes where all of the government offices are. So we know if we're not going to smoke those or not, or a school or a hospital or where all the fire departments are. So we're able to, or even our elderly care centers, right? We have a lot of those in McHenry County, so we have all of those mapped, so we know where we can send smoke and where we can't. And so those are some of the burn hazards that we put out. All of our fire districts, so we know who the jurisdiction is for our fire that we have. Site buffers, so we're able to map out, a half mile, 1 mile, a 2 mile buffer around our our birds, so we know for smoke management what we possibly could impact. And then, of course, we map all of our bird events. So what this does then is gives us abilities to do planning and summarizing. So the LM is land management. So we have land management planning areas where we want to do land management work, or even our vision of what we would like the landscape to look like in 5 years from now or in 10 years from now. So these are different layers that we're able to publish up on the cloud and are able to look at them. So one of these is pretty neat, is the bird frequency, so you can see how many times you've burned a piece of property, or places where you haven't been able to burn at all. So these are some of the different things that I'll be showing you here in just a minute. So I'm going to delve into this, but this is what ArcGIS Online looks like, the current map version that they have. So you have basically layers, and you can add a layer just by pushing a button, but this is all the different layers that would be on this map that you can click on and off. You can symbolize your layers, so you can have them a different color, a different line thickness, a different transparency, all the different things you can do with symbology. And then there's pop-ups, and I'll show you those too, so you can figure what pop-ups are. And pop-ups are, if you would like select a feature, it'll show you a table of all those attributes from that one event that you click on or select. And so you can organize how those pop-ups look and how they work. And so that's very important for us to be able to see the data that we're using. This is Field Maps. This app is free. Anybody can download it. If you want to download Field Maps today, we can do a little exercise at the end where we have the ability to be able to see all of the oak populations in McHenry County from what it looked like in 1872 to what it looks like now. So that we have a free web application that you're able to view on the Field Maps, and this Field Maps app is how we collect our data. So this is what Field Map looks like on my phone. These are actually screenshots that I took, right? So you have a feature that you want to collect. You can click on that, and it would bring up where you can then map with your finger to be able to create a point and draw a polygon on your map, and then you're able to enter your data. So I'll go over some of these later, but all of these are what they call fields. They're just fields in our table of information that we want to be able to collect. And then, like I said, at the end, then you can select that feature once you've created it and be able to view all of your data at the same time. So this is on our phone. So I'm going to go to ArcGIS Online, and hopefully this will work pretty well for us. This is the map that I'm going to be showing to you. I'm not really quite sure how the speed of our internet is, so we'll see how well this goes. So this is live. This is our layers that we have in our Land Preservation Natural Resources Burn Program Collector. And so we have, this is what they call a feature class. And so that feature class has a couple different layers within it, or things that are in that. So so the feature service that we publish has all sorts of different feature classes in it. And so you're able to then view those layers. This is a map, but as you can see, it's not a saved map. You can actually save a map as something with all sorts of different layers in it, and we'll show you that a little bit later. But this is how this works. There's all sorts of different tools over here on this left side, everything from adding layers to tables, right? And there's more. And so I'm actually going to change the base map to imagery, so you can actually see what McHenry County looks like. And so these are the different layers that we have. So you can turn on and off these different layers very easily. And so I'll show you that. So I'm going to take the bird impact sites off where all of our schools and things are. And these are our burn plans. I'm going to take the fire districts off. I'm going to take the buffers. These are 2-mile buffers for each one of our sites. And I'll take the burn hazards off and the burn master off. So this burn plans, where there's a thing over here on this other side that's a filter. I'm not sure where the filter is. Maybe there's some more map tools, but anyway, there's a filter that's turned on. So these are all of our sites that we wanted to get burned this year. So these are all of our different plans that we had. So if I click on this one right here, it will give you a pop-up. And so to show you the pop-up of this, what this does is shows you all of the fields that we have that we collected here. So we have the site name is Pleasant Valley Management Unit number 6, priority high, season, spring, fire breaks are completed, yes. Purpose, ecological management, that's where we want to do our burn. The burn plan is partial because at this time the burn plan wasn't completed yet. We had some pipelines to go through this and we had to get some information from. And then these are wind directions that you can actually do that prescription burn in. And who's going to do the burn and then how many acres it is and your wind preference that you want. And so you can then predispose all of that information and search for just that wind and which sites you want to burn with just the wind. So anyway, pretty neat, powerful tool to be able to have just the ability to be able to see these things on this as a pop-up. But you can also then, with these burn plans, you can also go in and you can show your table. So this then shows all the burns. This is actually, there's 309 records in here, so we started doing this plant burn stuff just 2 years ago. And so these are all of our burns. And I don't know if I can make it any bigger than that. But as you can see, it's got 2019 all the way through 2021 with all of our prescription burns that we want and all of the different unit management units that we have in here. So that you can also search by this. If you would click on this one for Kish Corridor, would highlight it on the map. So very, very, very useful tool to be able to have all of your planned burns in one location. This down here, this shows just the burns that we have done here just in the last 2 years. And so that's kind of interesting, and you can see it's actually underneath the burn plans. So you can change your, just by dragging this up, then you can put that over the top of what you've done. So these are some of the different prescription burns that we have done, and this shows it basically just the last 5 years of our prescription burning where we've done burns. So this is just raw data of this, of our burn collector to show you some of the things that we have. We'll come back in there in a minute. So what that burn collector does is lets us allow it to do things like this. So this is our Kishwaukee Headwaters site. This is our burn in Unit 3, where you can utilize that planned burn to draw your map and show where you want to have your fire control lines. And so this is one of the sites that we have burned this year. We are also able to create this. So these are things that the products that we put in our prescription burn plan. And so one of the things we have is our site impacts map, where we have a ½ mile radius and a mile radius, so we know how far smoke might go. And you can see I have a hospital right there. I've got schools right here, government offices, things like that. You're able to map out those on your burn plan, so you can plan for impacts of what your smoke management might do. We also are able to do this with GIS and have these in our prescription burn plans too. So this is a route to a hospital. So from our entrance here at Kishwaukee Headwaters, you can see it takes 5 minutes and 39 seconds to be able to get from there to the immediate care place. So we're able to map that out and how many miles it is. So we're able to do that, especially on some of our remote prescription burns. We'd like to have this information in our plan for our safety officer if they would need to take someone, rather than waiting for the time to have an ambulance come. They know exactly which hospital they're going to go to, which is closest, and how long it's going to take to get there. So they can utilize that information to talk with EMTs or something like that who would be responding to your call, and then they could decide if they wanted to go or not. So all of these are, for every single one of our planned burns are, this is a very useful map for our planning purposes. I'm going to go to another our GIS online map. This is actual map of our prescription burn history, and it's pretty phenomenal to be able to see all of this stuff. And I might need to get a little bit of turn some things on and off. Okay. So we have this is our prescription burn master, and what this does, if I do this, and I'll zoom in over here to Glacial Park, one of our bigger conservation areas. These are all the places where we've done prescription burning just since 2017 here in the park, which is a pretty neat picture to be able to see in here. And then you can also, as we turn this on, then you're also able to turn on and show what's underneath there, where all of our fire breaks are at just this site. And so these are fire breaks that we put in just for this year or for the last couple years. So you're able to see exactly where you have your fire breaks and where you might need to plan to put them in again for our different units. So that helps us out a lot. You can also then turn on our prescription burn plans. And so these are our planned burns that we had. I'll turn, so just like in that other map, I was just showing the layers of this. It's the same information, just in a different map. Turn the burn plans off. We'll turn the burn master off. This does have site buffers again too, right? So you can see all where your buffers are and your burn hazards. So for burn hazards, I'll go down to one of my sites down here. This is called Pleasant Valley Conservation Area. And some sites have very little burn hazards. This one has a lot. So bridges, signs, power poles, high power tension lines, plastic culverts that you have to worry about burning up underneath a creek crossing, things like that. So this site has a lot of different hazards that we're able to identify and then map, which helps us for our planning purposes as well.
I assume like the attribute table, you click on it and you know what the hazard was.
What that actually is, yeah. So we have that. So yeah, so if I go to the site buffers, or not buffers, hazards, click here. Lost it. Show the table. It'll show all of those, right? Hazard type, pipeline, well, sign, right? That's Kishwaukee corridor. And so we have 95 of these mapped out that you can see where they are and know exactly what those hazards would be.
Are you just going on the field with collector or field maps and you're at that plastic culvert right here?
Yeah.
You do it right there and hit that.
You do it
fill
right.
that attributes to it.
Yep. So you don't have to be sitting at your desk to add things to this. It's easy to collect right away out in the field. If you find something new that wasn't there before, you're able to map that pretty easily, very quickly. So that's kind of neat to be able to do your hazards, and then they're in there. And most hazards sometimes are there and sometimes aren't. So we have a couple other things to show you. We have places where we haven't burned. All right, so this is just a ag ground or pastures that we have not been able to be able to burn. And so it shows you where you might want to be able to get fire back onto the landscape. We have a annual burn history here too. So you can see all of the prescription burns that we've done. This is kind of these polygons don't have anything inside of them, but this is where we have done our burn history. And so that's kind of neat. And then kind of related to this history, it's just a symbology that we have that figure. And then what's neat here too is you can have your frequency. So you can overlay your color, so the darker color would be the burn more than 10 times, right? Where you can do, the orange would be 5 to 10 times, and the yellow would be 1 to 5 times, so you can see what your sites look like in the big picture of where you've actually done your burning and how much. So like here at the Lake in the Hills Fen, down in Cary, Lake in the Hills, you can see that we've had some places where we've gotten a lot of fire on the ground in the last 30 years, which is neat. Or you can come up to the Glacial Park, up here again, and see exactly how much of Glacial Park you've actually been able to get fire and put out, and how many times we're able to do that. So this is one of the neat tools. We have this layer set up right now for those 1 to 5 times, 5 to 10. But you can change that. You can change the parameters of how many, what your frequency would be. So you can say if it's just 1 to 2 years, right, you burn it, or if it's 14 to 20, you can actually map those things out too. We just have the symbology set for this for the 0 to 5 and the 5 to 10 and 10 plus years we've been able to get it burned, or 10 times. So that's kind of a neat tool that we're able to use for analyzing. And so the fire frequency summary is a very useful tool for us. So that's kind of neat. So that's our prescribed burn history map that we've got. I'm going to go now to what we call the kind of the neat thing that they've done for Esri now is they've been able to let people be able to create dashboards, and those are basically quick summaries that you can post up and you can design. There's a couple different templates, of course, out there that you can do, but this is kind of the interesting summary, and I'll get into this map here too. So I'm going to go online and show you our storybook we've got. It basically takes all of that information that I just showed you in the raw data and be able to put it into a form that's shareable. And so I'll show you that here. There it is. So basically what we're working on now is enhancements to our burn master that we've got, so we're able to share the proper information for the needs assessment that we have here. We're able to, one of the things that we've struggled with is in our table for our prescription burns is we have fire intensity, right? And how do you measure that? And how do you get that accurate? Because my opinion as someone who's on a ATV operating might be different than the volunteer who's way in the back, have a different opinion on what the fire intensity would be. So we're trying to figure out the best way that we can classify that, and so all eyes are the same on it. So I might, some people say the fire intensity would be low. Well, is that a 4 or is that a 1, right? So, or is it a 10, right? If it was really, really hot, was it the hottest that it could be? Or you're torching trees or not? So we're trying to work on that. That's one of the enhancements we're trying to work into our thing, that we'll be able to go back then and take all of that data, because we do have that data for fire intensity already, but it was either a low, moderate, or high, or sometimes we'd use like a scale between 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. So we should be able to go back and categorize those by figuring out a standardized system of how to do that. And I think we all struggle with that. That burned over the top, but the bottom duct didn't burn. So was it really hot or not hot, or how many raccoons did you kill, right? So what's the fire intensity and how to measure that. So that's one of the enhancements we're working on right now. Definitely use this a lot for our project and for our work planning, right? So it's one of the things that we are able to have data-driven decisions on where we want to do our prescription burning and where we need to focus on burning and where we haven't burned in a long time that we should probably get back there and do some more burn intervals. And what this does too is all of this data helps us tell a story. And so that's kind of a neat thing to be able to do, is to be able to share. And so I'll show you this storybook here in just a second, which kind of ties all of our information back together. And on that side too, there's always changes in our software that's coming out. So to keep up with the training, to be able to learn how to use maps like that, or to be able to make a story map, doesn't just happen in a half an hour. It's it's a 2-hour day class or something like that. To be able to get proficient at it, you really need to be able to spend a lot of time doing it. So this is a story map, and it's made up of what they call dashboards. And so these are different dashboards that we have on here, and I'll click on each one of these because each one tells a different story, which is pretty neat. So this is just, so if my boss, Brad Woodson, or my director wanted to see where we're going to do and what we've done so far, this is live. So as we do our prescription burns every day and we map in our burns every day, the data changes in this map. And so it's a living document that you're able to share and to be able to communicate with and say, here, just open up this website and it'll show you exactly what we're doing and where. So that's kind of neat. So this then, if you zoom in, this shows all of our prescription burns that we have planned and the burns that we have done this year. And so you can see, we didn't get a lot of burns done this year. We're kind of disappointed in our weather. We had a really good first week in March, and then we had basically one burn day for 5 weeks, right after that. We kind of changed things up and did a couple weekend burns that helped us out a little bit, and then we went all the way until the end of April. So our last burn was just last Friday. So we weren't able to get a lot done because of weather. And of course, then with the weather comes the urban interface. And so when you have smoke going in the wrong directions, or your ceiling of how high the smoke will go up isn't meeting your prescription, we're kind of shut down. And so even with high ceilings, this year was really bad for smoke management for us. I mean, we had smoke hanging on the ground all the time. So it was kind of a weird thing. So we do have a lot of orange, which are our plans, and our burns that we did were here in the yellow. What's neat about this map though too is you can, like I said, we have pop-ups that are configured. So here's the data from this one Goose Lake plan. You can see we wanted to do all of this Goose Lake, right? But we weren't able to. So this then shows you that table from that one burn event, where you can click on that and you can see what the site was, the burn date, when we started, right? Purpose was to burn cedars, right? Our permit, burn manager, crew type, crew size, how many hours we spent there, the temperature, the RH, the wind speed. So we have all of that data that we're able to collect and go back and look at. Our transport winds mixing height, right? And here's our fire intensity here, low. What does low mean? Right? So pretty neat. We have another dashboard on here called Map by Wind Direction. So you're able to turn on and off. Turn on and off. You're able to turn on and off things, and then you're able to turn on the fires that we want to have with the southeast wind, or the fires that we want to have with just a south wind. Right? So you're able to see those birds for planning purposes. Pretty neat to be able to do that. This dashboard also has this, our fire frequency map on it, so you're able to see exactly how many times we burned at the site really easily. This is our dashboard for our current season. So this map shows you, or this dashboard shows you where we burned, the number of burns that we did, how many priorities did we actually hit, and then your total acres. So we burned 1,236 acres this year. Not a lot for 31 burns. We only had 15 burn days, so that's not too bad. And then this last thing, and with this too, is kind of our big story, bigger picture, right? That all of our prescription burns, so we have all of our burn records from the early 70s all the way through, this goes through 2021, the totals here. But you're able to see exactly, we burned 48,000 acres in McHenry County over our career, which is pretty neat. So the difference between this and this effort is where you have a burn that you might do in the spring, and then in the fall you burn an adjacent unit, but you might come back in and burn over that acreage again. So we have that kind of combined total. So we've done a couple thousand acres where we've actually burned over where we burned before in the same year. So that's kind of neat to be able to see those records. So that's a story map, and the dashboard, like I said, is live, so we'll be able to share this with your government agencies or the powers that be that control your money. You can have, or your trustees or your board of directors. You're able to show this in a heartbeat and share this, and then this map is updatable throughout your whole entire season. So you're able to see where things are at, and for communication-wise, it's a great tool to be able to share. So,
Who can see this story map?
Hmm?
Who can see this story map? Like
this one,
yeah.
Basically whoever can log into this account. As you can, up by the top, it says it's not shared yet, but you can turn it into a shareable one, where you can just link it. Anybody would be able to do that.
So like you can link it to your board members to see your
right.
that dashboard you showed earlier.
Right. So yeah, so once you publish it and make it shared, you can pick who you want to share it to. And so yeah, this one I'm actually logged in as me into our GIS online account, so only I can see this one, unless you know, or you have one of our conservation district accounts to be able to look at this. But we are working on our communication plan with this, so we're able to then share it. And so it's just a matter of saying, hey, Brad, can we share this to the world yet or not?
So you don't have to have a Ezra account to view this.
This one you do right now for us,
Yeah.
but yeah, once you would share it, you would not.
Okay.
Can you show how you add a layer?
Can I show how I added layer to the map or to like our burn master?
To a map?
So if you wanted to add a new layer to this, not go in and actually do a prescription burn record or something like that, just come down here, click add layer. And this layer then will search for all of the information that we have in ArcGIS Online. And so there's a lot of different, so this is my content. So this is all of my maps and my information that I have. If I wanted to go to my groups are all of these other maps that we have in here. So these are, this is a wildlife bluebird, right?
I guess as an example, you could do like invasive, certain
Yep.
invasives that you want.
Yep, so you can just go ahead and add whatever you want to add. So if I wanted to add this one right here, I can go ahead and just add that to the map. And then it takes me right to where that map is. You can see that we burned there. And so this is down at Lincoln Hills Fen, where we had streamed. And I have to go back and turn all the layers off. But that puts it right on the top of your map. So you can add things very quickly in this from your whole entire, from either from your desktop or from the cloud environment.